I was in Chicago last weekend for a recording of, well, not a recording, for a lecture by Eckhart Tolle. I thought maybe it would help me. That was my second time seeing Eckhart. I flew out to San Francisco 6 years ago to see Eckhart. It was a recording of Eckhart Tolle TV. And this time it was just a talk he gave at the Chicago Theater. I thought it would help me. I thought maybe by seeing my teacher, just by gazing at him and hearing him talk, and it might help eradicate and break up the negative thoughts about death and hell, especially hell, that I get. But I had a nice time. It was a very positive experience. He talked a lot about the illusion of time and how people say things like, oh, something that happened many years ago, they say things like, oh, it seemed like it was just yesterday. That's because it wasn't many years ago, it was now. It happened now. Everything happens now. So my car ended up breaking down and I took the train back home to Southern Illinois. So here I am. I wanted to talk a little bit about the spiritual realm. I wanted to talk a little more about the inner transformation I went through when I was 20 years old. Started right around my 20th birthday. I know I already did this. I made a video half a year ago. What was it called? I changed the title to New Age Testimony, Enlightenment, the Highway to Hell is Broad and Wide. So the title of this video, The Spiritual Realm, I'm going to give a little insight about what I experienced 12 years ago. Hopefully it can help some people who are seeking the truth. Hopefully it can help some people who have gone deeply into meditation and are seeking spiritual enlightenment. But this book, Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now, it landed in my lap right at the right time, 12 and almost 13 years ago. And I had no idea what I'd gotten myself into. I bought a few other books when I was getting into meditation and when I was going deeply into the power of now. I bought a few other books. One of them, I gotta talk a little bit about this. This is a serious problem. One of them was Sylvia Browne's, the psychic Sylvia Browne's Phenomenon, I think was the name of the book. And there was a part in the book she talks about the underworld, and she says some people think it's hell, but it's not. She says, unfortunately, she published this book where she actually writes that there is no hell. She teaches that there is no hell. She literally says there is no Satan. She says no perfectly loving God would create such a nasty place, let alone banish one of his children there. And this is a grave error on her part. I assure you, hell is very real. And I believe it's also eternal. God sent this spiritual teacher up to my room 12 years, almost 13 years ago during my enlightenment to tell me that there is a hell. She said she was shown an indescribable portion of hell by the Holy Ghost. And she said she prayed for death. She said her guess is that it was eternal because there was no time. Eternity is not infinite time. It is the absence of time. In heaven there is no time. In hell there is no time. So, I mean, I know from my experience hell is real, and now I also believe, I don't know, but I believe it's also eternal. And anyone that claims to be a psychic, a mystic, anyone that claims to have mystical insight into the nature of phenomena, the nature of life, of the spiritual realm, I should say, anyone that claims to have that knowledge, especially anyone that publishes books about that knowledge, if they say there is no hell, this is a serious error. So, I'll talk again a little about my disastrous religious experience. The spiritual realm, it opens up for the relieving of suffering, strictly for the relieving of suffering. And what I mean by opens up, it literally opens up. There is a portal in the top of your head for divine energy. There's one in the top of your head, there's one in your gut. When you push it out, you can feel the energy flowing through your body up through the top of your head. And the spiritual realm is very harsh. When you go deeply into meditation, you cannot mess around with intoxicants at all. You cannot go out drinking beer with friends. You can't touch alcohol. You can't smoke pot. It'll completely undo everything you're doing to your mind through meditation. It's just, intoxicants are the total opposite, especially alcohol. They're the total opposite of meditation and spiritual enlightenment. Hindsight is 2020. Obviously, if I could do things over again, I would have never picked up my first beer. That religious experience I went through when I was 20 years old, it ended in a disaster strictly because of beer. My awakening lasted a little over 3 months, about 3.5 months. And, I desperately want another experience. I want meditation to come back to me. I don't know if it will or not. I might always need psychiatric medicine. Anyways, the other day I asked a friend of mine, I said, "Do you believe in marriage?" He said, "No." And I said, "I don't either." And at that talk, the Eckhart Tolle talk at the Chicago Theater I just went to last weekend, Eckhart was talking about the Buddha a lot. He brought up the Buddha, Siddhartha Gautama. And I was thinking a lot about what the Buddha had to say, and he always mentioned, the Buddha mentioned a lot, the law of impermanence. Everything in this world is governed by the law of impermanence. And to me, marriage is forcing the permanent on something that is inherently impermanent, which are relationships, which are everything in this world, especially relationships. And maybe I'm going a little off topic talking about relationships and stuff, but this is just something I thought of because I had this conversation with my friend in Chicago the other day. And I don't think we'll ever get married. I'm 32. I'm no expert on relationships. I haven't been in a lot of relationships. And there are people, I mean, it's obvious there's people who are happily married. I'm not trying to slam marriage or nothing, but I don't think I'll ever get married. I don't plan on it. Even if I fall in love, it's, marriage is bondage, I think. Osho, the spiritual teacher, Osho, a crazy guy. He's a bit of a nut. I watched one of his videos. Everyone who is married should get divorced. Prostitution would disappear. Apparently married men are the #1 customers of prostitutes. Prostitution would disappear. He says no one should legally bind themselves to another person. Freedom is the ultimate value. Freedom is the ultimate thing that anyone can have in this life. So, let's see what else. Talk a little bit about sexual energy, and I feel very, very little desire for sex. I mean, for the past year and a half, even if I got with a beautiful woman, I don't think I would even desire sex. It's a combination. Is this a good thing? I don't know that it's a good thing. I thought maybe, I did that video a while back, psychiatric drugs chemically castrated me. I mentioned that I thought maybe it would be peaceful to never have sex drive. But I don't know if it's more peaceful or not, maybe. But I think the reason my sex drive is completely diminished is because of a combination of several years of abusing alcohol. That probably didn't have a whole lot to do with it, but maybe a little. A combination of that, being on psychiatric medicine for 2 decades now. It'll be 2 decades this summer. And those 2 things, and also the third thing of having gone deeply into meditation. All this energy during my religious experience got sucked out the top of my head. And it was the most profound feeling of relief you could ever imagine. And I noticed a lot of that energy was sex energy. I still had desire for sex for many years, but now it's just completely gone. I mean, I don't feel any desire anymore. So, a lot of people wonder why, on the spiritual path, why sex is a bad thing, why desiring sex is a bad thing. All desire is a bad thing. The Buddha says desire is the cause of all suffering. But actually, desire and suffering are the same thing. And sexual energy and the desire for sex, the desire to survive, those are the 2 strongest desires inside of a person. And I think that's why, a lot of monks are so against sex, is because it might be the ultimate desire. So, I'm okay with not wanting sex. It doesn't really bother me. That being said, I still crave feminine energy. I still enjoy being in the presence of a beautiful woman. So maybe my libido isn't completely diminished. Maybe it's just the leftover remnants from many years, as a teenager and in my 20s of constantly wanting sex. So maybe it's just that leftover energy that went away. Eckhart talks a little bit about relationships in his book. He talks a lot about relationships in his book, The Power of Now. And he says, they're dysfunctional, they go through their cycles of highs and lows, and it's like a drug. And where am I going with this? I don't know. I need to get straight to the point in this video, guys. Enough rambling. Hell is very real. The spiritual realm is no joke. You cannot mess around with intoxicants at all. I just wanted to give that warning. I know I already did a video about this a half a year ago. I changed the title from My Disastrous Religious Experience to New Age Testimony, Enlightenment, The Highway to Hell is broad and wide. And if you read anything from any New Age books, any psychic books by psychics that say there is no hell, this is the most serious error of all. Bye, guys.